my thoughts on the Acolyte are very tied to the High Republic because
Yeah.
watching this trailer, I mean, obviously it's a visual spectacle. I mean, seeing all the different lightsabers and all the action and using martial arts with the Force, that was really cool. But for me, what made this trailer so special, because for the past few years, um, since the High Republic started in like 2021, and so the past few years, the High Republic era has only been in comics and books and audio dramas. So for the most part, I have to rely on what's in the art of the comic or what's in my mind for the aesthetic of the High Republic. And seeing that opening scene with Jedi Master Soul, maybe a reference to Charles Soule, one of the architects of the High Republic, maybe. I don't know, not confirmed, but it's what I thought of. So seeing that aesthetic and seeing that world here in this trailer was just such a big thing for me because so many people, I'm sick and tired of, they're sick and tired of the original trilogy stuff. Like they like the original trilogy, but it seems like it's relying too much on that nostalgia. And for years, I keep telling them the High Republic, it's there. The books, the comics, they're there. They're there for your consumption. But seeing this was just, I was a little emotional seeing this trailer. So yeah,
I don't blame you. This is some fantastic stuff that I think we're getting because not only is it the first time we're getting this High Republic era, but I think this is really the first time since Rogue One that we're getting some type of a martial arts in Star Wars. And that's something
hmm,
that I love. I love seeing martial arts and I love um, Jackie Chan, things like that. I want to see how that integrates into using the Force and the Jedi and those type of things. Not necessarily combat with just lightsabers, but having these type of. It looked like they're doing some type of wire work or something. I don't know exactly.
it's
Just we're getting from
incredible.
this 1 minute
It's
trailer,
incredible.
but it looks great. And having Carrie Ann Moss, Trinity from the Matrix, be the first one that we see, I was like, "This is great. This is exactly what I wanted." Um, this is something that's going to be special to me.
Hmm.
I think the way that this is playing out, I want to see this now, Tim. I want to see the Acolyte as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, I mean, yeah, I do want to see it now too. I do want to see it as soon as possible because I have so many questions about, you know, because this is actually, you know, all of the High Republic books and novels and comics and all those things take place over a certain amount of time, and this is way after that because there was a character that was in this trailer that I found out about at Celebration. I wasn't there, but I read about
Ooh.
one
Mhm.
where they revealed that Veresta Rowe was going to be in this show, and that's exciting to me. And she's an adult here, and in the books and comics, she's like a teenager.
Yes.
So to see her, I'm interested to see like what rewards we're going to be rewarded with for people who have read the High Republic and digested it are going to have. So I'm just so excited. It looks great. I have so like I said, so many questions about what this series could be, and it's going to be a big thing for Star Wars because, like you said, this is the first time that we are going away. No Skywalkers in this era at
Yes.
all. No Millennium Falcons. No C. It'll be the first Star Wars thing without C-3PO. That's kind of weird.
Oh wow. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
I
Man.
just thought that,
Yeah. Well,
but
I
yeah,
guess did Rogue One didn't have, or did it? Because
I
Princess
think
Leia's in Rogue One.
Princess Leia, I don't can't
I
remember
don't
if
know if,
C-3PO was there.
yeah, if
Like
he has a
he
speaking role or
might have
not.
been because he might have been with Bale. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, I guess. Wait, he wasn't in Solo, was he?
I
Or
I
for,
think he was.
okay. Yeah, I wanna see exactly where they're going with this, and are they gonna have the whip lightsaber? Is
Yeah,
that
like
gonna be shown in
action
live
is
action?
Vernestra gonna have? Yes, yes. C-3PO was in Rogue One.
Okay, okay, perfect. Man, that is gonna be sad to not have him in there, but I really wanna see what's going on in this High Republic era of the Acolyte. Also, kind of like a mystery of like a crime noir Who's
Hmm.
killing these Jedi? Where, what is this
Yeah.
mysterious force? What is the Acolyte? And we see in this trailer a red lightsaber ignite,
Hmm.
and everybody's talking about, okay, is it Darth Plagueis? Is it Plagueis's master?
Is
And
it Darth Bane?
is it something that is true and the Jedi just swept it under the rug? Or do we
Which they
take
have a
Kiadi
history for that kind of thing.
100%?
Yeah.
Do we take what Kiadi Mundi says as canon? Like, as, okay, this actually, there hasn't been a Sith sighted for 1,000 years. Like, what is going on? Like, who is telling the truth here? I really want to know how they're going to weave that, how they're going to maneuver that. Very interested to see that. We Shoff talks about the concept of bleeding kyber crystals. We saw that in not only the Darth Vader comic book, but also in the video game, the Cal Kestis video game, which has High Republic content in it.
Hmm.
And I want to see that in live action, the concept of bleeding
Yeah,
a
you're,
kyber
you're talking
crystal.
about the Charles Soule Darth Vader run, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Charles Soule also brought that back in his ongoing Star Wars run when he was
Ooh.
Luke is building his green lightsaber that we see in Return of the Jedi. So they
Okay.
do get into that, but I would not be surprised if we got more into that here in the Acolyte, especially seeing that this is the first time in this era that we're seeing. Yes, absolutely. um, this is the first time we're seeing a red lightsaber in this era because, as of yet, there has not been a red lightsaber in the High Republic. There's only been,
Ooh.
green, blue, yellow, purple. Yeah.
This would be a great introduction to that, because there's not everybody
Mhm.
reading the comic books. Not everybody is reading the other materials. So having a live action crystal bleeding would be very interesting. And it was actually introduced in that Darth Vader comic book. That was the first time we ever
Mhm.
saw that in canon, of somebody bleeding the crystal. That's changed from Legends, the way that the red kyber crystals existed before. So yeah,
Yeah,
very
because before
interesting.
it was only that pure kyber crystals yielded the blue and the green, and the synthetic was the red.
That's
So
right.
yeah, and
Yes.
that the fact that it's so connected to the dark side of the force is makes more sense. But and I like it in terms of storytelling and mythology.
Yeah, man, I want to see what we're gonna get. It's just, there's so much stuff that we just don't know at this point. But this
Mhm.
was a perfect teaser trailer to see
Absolutely. And
what
it's the
is going on.
perfect time too, because there was so much speculation. It's like, where's the acolyte? Where's the acolyte? Like when, like we're getting all this other Star Wars stuff, Bad Batch, and hearing about all this stuff. Like, where's the acolyte? And and yes, it's debuting in June, and that's a long time away. But it gives it, what I like about it is, because it's going to be the first series set in the High Republic era, it gives people time to, like, okay, what is the High Republic? Like, what is going on in this time in Star Wars that I need to know about? And that gives them time to, go to their bookstore, go to their comic book shop or Amazon to check out this material and figure out
Mm,
what exactly it is about.
yes. And actually, for those who are watching and who don't know about that, Tim, why don't you tell them, what is the High Republic? What is the whole concept behind that?
The High Republic is it's set 200 years before the Phantom Menace, and it almost has kind of like a Star Trek kind of feel, because
Ooh,
it's very much like the age of, of discovery and exploration, and
right, right.
the Jedi aren't as bureaucratic as they are in the prequels. I mean, you mentioned, that the Sith, that the Jedi telling Qui-Gon that the Sith have been extinct for millennia. I don't 100% think that that's the truth,
Hmm,
that is was happening, because it's not unlike the Jedi Council to do stuff that's shady in the prequels,
right.
because they found out near the end of the Clone Wars that the clones were created by, essentially, by Dooku, um, and they's like, you know what? Let's just not. It's fine. Fine. The clones are an asset. It's fine. I actually just finished reading, and we'll talk about this in our Bad Batch discussion. I just finished reading Dark Disciple, and in that book, the Jedi Council advocates a mission to assassinate Dooku, and like a black ops kind of mission, and
Mm.
that's shady. So, but here the Jedi aren't as bureaucratic. They're not as like focused on this that, and they're very much it's very much a golden age for the Jedi. Everyone
Yes.
wants to see the Jedi at their peak. This is the Jedi at their peak because you get
Yeah.
to see all different kinds of Jedi. It's not like Jedi. Jedi can't have attachments. They can't have romance. They can't do this. They can't do that. There's a lot of things in the High Republic that the Jedi can do. In
Ooh,
fact,
man.
there's a romance, a love triangle. There is a Wookiee Jedi buried. I love that. I love that. He's awesome. Oh my
Yes.
gosh. There was a book at the end of a book, and I thought that he might have died, and then I read Shadows of Starlight by Charles Soule, the comic, and I'm like, oh, Burry's okay, all right. And there was like a couple of years where I didn't know what was happening because they did a time jump for Phase 2. So anyway, but it's a golden age of the Jedi. They're building this new space station called Starlight Beacon. Uh, the Republic and the Jedi work in tandem a lot. Where in the prequels, they're very much like we don't get involved in government stuff. We don't involve in government stuff, but they work pretty hand in hand. I mean, Starlight Beacon, the space station, is a Republic outpost, but there is a place for Jedi to train and to do all this other kinds of stuff. And
Man.
and the Jedi, what's really cool is there are no Sith in this era that we're in right now in the High Republic. So then that begs the question: well, who are the antagonists? Um,
Mm. Yes.
and so who are the antagonists? The antagonists are this group of space pirates called the Nile, and they're led by the Eye of the Nile, Markion Rowe, who you've talked about on your shorts, and they are causing all sorts of havoc all over the galaxy for the Jedi. And they've got their own hierarchy that they're dealing with, and their own technologies that they're dealing with, and it's just really cool. Like these books and these comics are so wonderful. They're the highlight of my comic reading and my book reading. Yeah, those are the
Yes.
they're man, all these characters they did like all of the authors and the writers, Kevin Scott, Charles Soule, Claudia Gray, Daniel Jose Older, Justina Ireland, all the writers that they've got behind this initiative have just knocked it out of the park. Knocked it out of the park. I have been telling people that the two things that up before the Acolyte were that excited me about Star Wars were the Mandalorian and the High Republic. And the High Republic
Mm.
just knocks it out of the park. Every time a book comes out, I'm like, I'm so fixed and invested, and they just take us for a ride. And
Yes.
every character is great. Every character has a different, almost like how the Force is used in the High Republic is everyone has a different kind of ability and way of using the Force rather than just being generic, make things float, Force pushes, and all those superpower stuff that we've seen. They utilize the Force in very specific ways. Avar Chris, who is a central character in the High Republic, the Marshal of Starlight Beacon, the hero of Hetzel, um, she actually describes the Force as kind of a song that she hears,
Ah,
music that she hears within herself. So that is just a lovely thing that Charles Soule added. And oh, man, the High Republic is just it's so good. It's so good. I will recommend it to everybody who wants good Star Wars content.
Yeah, and the Acolyte is kind of the end of the High Republic.
It
It's
is.
set
It is.
about 100 years before Phantom Menace,
Mhm.
and I wanna see, are we gonna get kind of an actual ending to the High Republic in the show, or is it gonna be in the comics and the novels, like, the transition period between the High Republic and what is the prequel era called? There's a specific
It's
name
oh,
for it.
what is it called? I think it was called The Fall of the Jedi?
Yeah, I think
The
that's about right. But there's I wanna see what that transition is gonna be like between those 2,
Mhm.
and I think everything that's happening in the High Republic, to me, is like you
Yeah, it's
said.
Fall of the Jedi, it's Fall of the
Okay,
Jedi.
Fall the Jedi. If you're looking for something that's not Skywalker, and I've heard a lot of my friends or people I know and talk to that say, "Hey, I'm a little bit bored of seeing the same family, the same Tatooine over and over and over again." The High Republic is what you want. This is like the
Mhm.
Knights of the Old Republic video game before
Yeah.
Legends, like, and the Old Republic game. Like, that was something that
Mhm.
I was always fascinated by because you had thousands of Jedi, everybody's running around, like you said, at the height of their powers. And what was that like? Who was the antagonist in that period? Because the Sith were all kind of decimated at that point. There was no Sith presence. So I'm
Mhm.
very interested to see where this goes, and I want to jump into more of the High Republic comics because at this point I've just kind of dipped my toe in, but I want to jump all the way in into the High Republic stuff. So man, I am loving this. Tim, this is some fantastic stuff. I
And
can't
which
wait.
begs a question, you're probably like everyone's probably wondering, like, well, where do I start? Because there's so many books and there's
Ooh-wee.
so many comics. If you want to get the best feel for what the High Republic is, I and I would suggest reading the first three adult novels: The Light of the Jedi by Charles Soule, The Rising Storm by Kevin Scott, and The Fallen Star by Claudia Gray. Those
Yeah.
novels are fantastic. They're just they really just they set up what the High Republic is. They set up the Nile as the antagonist, and the the Rising Storm. I have I've not read a novel like the Rising Storm in quite some time. That novel was a roller coaster from start to finish. And after it was over, I had to take a breather because because it was so massive. So I would
Yes.
suggest starting there. But if you're more into comics and that's more your feel, you don't have to read everything. I like to read everything because I'm just a huge fan of it. But what I would suggest for comics is start with the main High Republic title that's done by Kevin Scott, and just go from there. And
Yes. Yes.
and there's even High Republic stuff for people of all ages. I mean,
Yes.
in phase one, and I talk phase one. Phase one is this set period, and then in phase two they jump 150 years into the past, and then phase three takes place a year after phase one. It's confusing, but it's Star Wars. Timelines don't matter, and so yeah, I mean it's just fantastic. So, and you have your High Republic Adventures all ages comic. During phase one, there was a selection of children's books that feature Buriaga, the Wookiee Jedi, very prevalently. And
Yes.
I'm such a fan of the High Republic that when I was going to Disney World after my graduation, and and I wanted to treat myself, so to speak. I knew I wanted a lightsaber, and and I was like, and I talked to you and say, well, Vector, should I get like what hilt should I get? Because there's so many different character hilts that I could get, and you just flat out told me just build your own, like just build your own. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to do that. And so I set my appointment to do that. And then I started looking into like, okay, what are the different hilt designs? And I wanted to look for the most High Republic lightsaber hilt that I could, because if I'm going to do this, I want to do it the High Republic way. And so I built this thing, and
Ooh.
and this is like about as High Republic as I could get. Um, and then Disney, the jerks, after I built it, decided that they're going to we're going to release a Stellan Geos lightsaber legacy lightsaber. I'm like, you jerks.
Man,
Not only did the lightsaber come because it's got the cross guard, because there's a lot of that in the High Republic, and it even came with a freaking comic. I'm like, you jerks. You jerks.
man. Well, now I got to get that, Tim. Now you've taken money out of my pocket because that's now I want to
Well,
get it.
it's not there now anymore. So
Oh man, eBay. Yeah,
yeah.
that is interesting. That is funny. Also, like you were saying with the all ages stuff, the Young Jedi Adventures on Disney Plus. That was actually
Yes.
the first High Republic show.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the Acolyte is the first live action. The first actual show was the Young Jedi Adventures. My son loves that. Every time he sees that on
Nubs is
toys or
awesome.
yeah, every he loves all of those characters. So Yoda's in
Yeah.
there. Which
Yeah.
are we gonna get Yoda in the Acolyte?
We might, because Yoda has appeared quite a bit in the High Republic. I was actually
Yes.
a portion. I'm reading the first Phase 3 novel right now, Eye of Darkness, which I would describe to people as the Avengers: Infinity War of the High Republic, because it focuses pretty heavily on Markion Ro and the Nile, and the Jedi are just reacting to everything he's doing. And so that has been fun. And Yoda shows up, and he's given the reverence that he's given. In fact, the first 3 issues of the Yoda comic that they're doing in Star Wars uh, was set in the High Republic era, and it's
Nice. Yes.
that's part of, I think, Phase 2. I think, can't remember
Yeah.
which one it
I
was, but
I need to get
yeah,
caught up on that.
yeah,
Man, there's some fantastic stuff on the way. The Acolyte, the rest of the High Republic that we're going to get for Phase 3. I'm into it, Tim. I can't wait to read more of all of that stuff. And I'm hoping that we will have many guests in the future to talk more about the High Republic and the Acolyte. I think we're going to be reviewing the Acolyte episode by episode as it comes out. So stay
it's gonna be fun.
tuned to Trust in the Force.